Hi everybody, welcome back to my channel. My name's John Wilson, and in tonight's video we're going to talk a bit about family. Tonight's video is a story time. I'm going to tell you the story about me and my secret family. I did a Twitter poll and this story came neck and neck with the story on how I got my dog. So I thought I'll tell that story another day and I'll tell you this story. Here is a quick disclaimer though. I'm going to say to you, if you are easily triggered by any family situation or you feel upset, then I will not be offended if you can't watch this video. For me, what I'm about to tell you might be a bit unbelievable, a bit upsetting, but please remember, you know, I have had years and years to live with this scenario. So, I'm going to tell you how I found out that I have a secret family that I genuinely promise you I knew nothing about until last year. So, I'm going to kick off the story by telling you a little bit about how I grew up, my family background, and that will get the ball rolling, so it'll put you in an idea of who I am and all about me. So I grew up in the middle of Scotland with two big brothers and a big sister, and I was brought up single-handedly by my mum, who was an amazing woman. She was a single parent forever, and that's the scenario. I was brought up alone. So I live with my mum. My sister is my closest sibling to me. She is 14 years older than me, and her dad was my mum's husband. She got divorced from him, she met my dad and fell pregnant with me. So that's the headlines of the scenario and how this whole situation, how I came about. During my mum's pregnancy, my dad decided, you know what, I'm not doing this. I am having nothing to do with this baby. And he just flew off into the sunset. So he left my mum pregnant, which is nice of him, and therefore, you know, I was born. My dad did come back into my life a little later on, after I was a toddler, say, and my mum decided, you know, to give him the time of day, let him meet me, and that situation played out. So my dad, as a figure to me, was somebody who was in and out of my life sporadically. My mum, being the strong, independent woman that she is, she always said, you know, it'd be my decision on the relationship I had with him. She wasn't particularly fond of him, and as far as anybody was concerned, neither were his family. So he didn't have a close family. He was on his own, and he made the decision not to be part of my life. Other than a few times a year he would pop in, make sure I was okay. He never paid any money for me, so my mum brought me up financially on her own, emotionally on her own, and she raised me to be the man that I am today. 100%. I'm going to fast forward the scenario. So he's in and out of my life, he pops in, he has never been a guy that's bought me Christmas presents or birthday presents. Not that that's important, but I just want you to know that, you know, the relationship was very, very loose. I did call him dad, but to me, growing up, like, having a man that was not with my mum was pretty normal. I didn't compare myself to any other kids. I just thought that was the life that we had, and I never questioned it, and my mum never forced any scenario. She never forced my dad to be a part of my life, and I'm really, really grateful that she did, because as it turns out, he is a bit of a dick. So I'm going to fast forward a few years to 2001, I think it was, September the 11th. It was actually the day that the Twin Towers came down. There was a terrorist attack, I'm sure you know about it. And at that particular time, I worked for a television company. I worked for a company called Sky here in the UK, satellite TV company, and I worked in a team that dealt with business development. So it was a call centre environment, there were TVs everywhere, and I remember being totally shook that day because on the TVs in front of us, we seen the terrorist attacks, you know, and it was totally unbelievable. And I did my day's work that day. There was a lot of things to do. When I got home, I felt particularly stressed, and I just wanted to say to my mum, you know, I can't believe this is going on. This is really shocking to me, and I will never, ever, ever forget that day. And I'll never forget that day for two reasons. And the second reason is, I had gone home from work, kicked off my shoes, had dinner, spoken to my mum, and our phone rang at home. And I answered the phone. And during that phone call, a lady said to me, "Hi, my name is Michelle, we'll call her. I don't really know her name. Can I speak to John?" And I said, "Yeah, it's John speaking." And she said, "Listen, I'm really sorry to tell you this, but I am your auntie." You know, when on that day, somebody saying, "I'm really sorry to tell you this," my heart jumped into my mouth. I thought, shit, what is going on? But she said, "I am your auntie, I'm your dad's sister, and I know nothing about you. He has never told anybody in the family about you. I have another sister, a couple of brothers, and I'm really, really shocked to learn that you exist." And at that moment, I was like, what is happening? What's going on here? I can't quite believe this is true. I can't take any of this in. Today's been a shocking enough day, and you're now giving me this information that basically I was a secret child. Now, that part I'm not entirely shocked with, because as far as I knew, my dad was estranged by his family, so I was beginning to think, how did you get my number? Who really are you, and what is the situation? So anyway, I ended the call. I said, "Listen, I'm going to have to go. Can you ring me back in maybe an hour? I really want to chat to my mum about this. I don't know who you are." And at this point, I was really young still. I was working, but I was really immature. I was coming to terms with the fact that I was gay. Nobody knew at that particular time. So I had quite a lot on my plate. I had a responsible job, and at that time, you could tell me the tiniest piece of information and I would say, "Thank you for telling me that. I'm going to digest that information and then I'll come back to you." So that's exactly what I did, which has lived on with me to this day. I tend not to jump into scenarios with both feet. I think about things that happen to me personally, and so that's what I did. I ended the call. I then went to my mum and I said, "Mum, I've had a really weird phone call from my dad's sister. Her name is Michelle." And my mum immediately sat forward in her chair and she said, "Okay, tell me about that phone call." And I said, I've never really asked any information about my dad's family. I've seen him several times a year between the age of tiny to the age that I am now. I know that he lives away. I know that he runs his own company. Tell me a bit more about him." So she told me all the information that I needed to know. He had brothers, it was true. He had sisters, that was true. His mum and dad were still alive. All of this information. And I said, is it at all possible that his family don't know that I exist? And she said, "Well, I doubt it. I think they probably do know that you exist. But to be honest, John, I brought you up on my own. I have never forced you to have a relationship with somebody. You've chosen to have the relationship with your dad, and it is what it is. It's up to you where you go from here." Which I thought was really peculiar. So anyway, 30 minutes had passed, 40 minutes had passed, and the phone rings again. So I run and I answer the phone, and this lady's saying, "Hi, it's Michelle again. Yeah, I'm really annoyed. I'm annoyed at your dad. He's not told us about you. You're a secret child. Did you know that you also have a brother and a sister? Half brother, half sister." And I said, "Oh my God, no, I didn't know this. Tell me a bit more about them." And she said, "Well, I think you should really speak to your dad. It's really him that you have a beef with. I'm going to tell you now, I'm not happy with any of this. I am really annoyed that I didn't know you existed, and I'm really sorry this has happened to you. Goodbye." So this lady hung up the phone. I immediately rang my dad and I said, "Dad, I want you to tell me straight up, tell me the truth. What is the scenario with this lady called Michelle?" And he had said, "Are you sure that phone call happened?" And I said, "Look, why would I make up a phone call? I don't have that great a relationship with you. We're not that close. So yeah, that phone call did happen, and I think, mister, you have a lot of explaining to do, because I have learned today that, not only do I not exist, which isn't a shock and I'm not all that bothered by, to be honest, but that I have a half-brother and sister. I was bothered by that. Just because as far as I'm concerned, my dad didn't have a relationship with his family, remember that. And it's not my place to push any scenario. You know, if he didn't have a relationship with his family, something terrible could have happened. And he decided not to have a relationship. And I never asked, because from the age of 3 to the age that I was at that particular time, and having had the limited contact with them, that subject really never came up. And I know that that sounds pretty bizarre, but it never came up, you know. It's not something that you ask somebody that fleets in and out your life, like an auntie or an uncle that lives abroad or whatever. So he then said, you know, I don't think my sister made that phone call to you. And I cracked. You know, I screamed down the phone at him. I said, you're lying to me. I don't understand why you're lying. You're a waste of space. I'm so pissed off at you. How dare you have a secret family? She must be telling the truth. You're a dick. And da-da-da-da-da. And I exploded. All my feelings came out. And having gone from a place of never been bothered about having a dad in my life to being really bothered that somebody was daring to tell me any lies whatsoever, because I knew that there was some kind of bullshit going on. And he hung the phone up to compose his thoughts, I presume. The phone rang again, and it was Michelle, and she started asking really personal questions. So, tell me about you, tell me where you work, tell me about your school, tell me about your sister, your brothers, your mum. My mum had been retired through ill health at that time, but she was really keen and anxious to find out, you know, our address, and in particular, a lot of detail on my mum. And at this point in time, you know, alarm bells were ringing, because I'd spoken to my dad and he had said that it wasn't my sister. So I was confused as hell, and I was thinking, I don't really know what's going on here, shit, what's the deal? And the phone calls were just coming, bam, straight off the phone to him, on the phone to her. And I hadn't really had a great chance to speak to my mum. You know, I'd asked her, how do you feel about me having this conversation? Do you want me to speak to him? Do you not want me to speak to him? I respect what you think. You brought me up on your own. You have financially really struggled to bring me up. I respect you. You're my world. You're everything to me. And I just want to make sure that whatever I do doesn't upset you. So that's kind of where I was at with the situation. I then refused to give any information to Michelle. You know, I didn't tell her much about my mum. It wasn't about her. It was about me. I was being a bit selfish, and I was saying, you know, I can't believe that you didn't know about me, and da-da-da-da-da. Despite the fact that alarm bells were ringing, I treated it as fact, you know, as far as I was concerned. Although the alarm bells were ringing, and although he said otherwise, you know, I thought he was a bit of a liar. This must be my long-lost auntie, and I don't know who it is. We ended that phone call, and I got through it, and I was trying to speak to my mum, and the phone rang again. So I went and answered the phone, and this time it was the same woman. She's saying, you're a little gay bastard, I fucking hate you. And she had gone from being this auntie to being this crazy lady that was abusing me down the phone, and I was like, what is happening here? I just don't understand what the hell is going on. She's like, your mum's a slut. She was being horrible, really, really horrible. And I hung up the phone, and I went through, and I told my mum, look, I've had this really weird phone call. This lady is screaming down the phone. And immediately, through explaining, the phone rang again, and my mum said, no, I'm getting it. And there was a lot of screaming and shouting and toing and froing, and my mum hung up the phone and then immediately disconnected it so it wouldn't ring again. Mind you, these were the days before mobile phones were a huge thing, and although I had a mobile phone, your number wasn't readily available. You know, I think probably text messaging was just coming out then. I'm really that old. So taking the phone off the hook was the thing to do when you didn't want to speak to somebody. And my mum said, you know, we really need to chat about this. I want you to tread carefully. Your dad left me. He didn't have a great relationship with his family. As far as I know, they're not very nice people. And it's up to you. I'll support you whatever you decide to do. My mum was a legend. Unfortunately, she passed away last year. But my mum was a legend. And I swear she looks down on me now. And she always made the right decisions. Even when they were wrong, they were the right decisions. And this was the right decision. So I immediately went back and I hung the phone back on the hook, and I rung my dad back and I said, listen, you're a liar. You clearly are up to something. What the hell is going on? And in the meantime of me taking the phone off the hook, and him, and speaking to him last, and then speaking to this lady called Michelle again, he had managed to start to compute what the hell was going on, and it turns out that the crazy lady was in actual fact a girlfriend of my dad's, who had found out somehow that about me and my mum, and was extremely unhappy. I then asked him, does this mean then that the things she was saying were true? And he said, no, they're not true. I said, do your family know about me? And he said, I don't speak to my family. And I said, so do I have any half-brothers and sisters? Because she told me that. And he said, no, John, that's all a load of lies. This lady is crazy. Stay away from her. I'm probably going to get hurt tonight at some point. I need to collect my things and I'm moving out because the relationship there is not working. And at that, I kind of lost it, you know. I have to be honest, my patience was really thin. It was a stressful day. I screamed down the phone at him. I said, you're a liar. You've dragged me into all this shit. You're not there for me. You're a horrible dad. You're a horrible human being. I want nothing more to do with you. Don't ever come to my house again. Don't ring me. Don't call me. Do nothing. I'm washing my hands of you. You're a horrible, horrible man. And to a certain degree, I still believe that. You know, he is a horrible man. A few days had gone past and he turned up at my house and he said, look, I'm sorry, this shouldn't happen to you. This crazy lady, my ex-girlfriend, is vicious and I want you to stay away from her and don't answer any phone calls. And at that point I thought, you know, why would you want me not to answer any phone calls? Why would you not be honest with her? And why would everything be such a big surprise? You're clearly a dick. You have a son that is, I must have been 20, 21, something like that. You know, I was young, but I was past teenage years. I was in my early 20s, and I, at that point, felt like a bigger adult than him. And my mum, being the person that she is, she said, you know, if you don't want to speak to him again, that's up to you. This is why I let you make your own mind up. I can't force him to be part of your life. My mum never even took him to court to get any money for me. She just, you know, mother's instinct, she knew there was going to be shit going on, shit going down. So that was back then, September the 11th, a very long time ago, you know, it's years and years and years ago. We're going to fast forward now to 2016, last year. So, last year, my mum contacted me and she said, this was in January of last year, because my mum had gone into hospital in February of last year and unfortunately she died in June. So this was January, I remember it quite well. January of last year, she rang me and she said, John, I just want you to know that your dad's family they know that you exist, they've been looking to contact you. Your dad, as you know, runs a business. He's pretty well known in the village. You know, it's come to a head and his family now know. For whatever reason, they know that you exist. So you may very well have people get in touch with you. I hope you don't mind. This is not a crazy lady scenario like back then. I have spoken to the family and this is the situation. And I really respected that, you know. I thought, do you know what? My mum is being honest with me. She's giving me the heads up. It's my decision. I can make up my mind. And I said to her, you know, do you know if I have a half-brother and a half-sister? And she said, at this stage, I don't really know what the truth is, John. You know, your dad is a liar. You've been burnt with him before. All I know is, back all those years ago, he left me when I was pregnant. He didn't have a great relationship with his family. I hated him, if I'm being honest, and this is where we're at today. So, it turns out that, you know, I did a bit of Facebook creeping. I obviously know his full name. And I really tried to find bits of information about him I knew roughly where he lived, I knew his business, and I just did a lot of snooping online. And I found a girl who was about my age and was sitting in a picture with my dad. I immediately recognised the guy in the picture, and this was on Facebook. I contacted the girl and I said, I'm really keen to find out, you know, the guy in your picture, is his name, and I gave her his name. She immediately replied and she said, John, you can stop looking. You know, the truth has come out via different sources in the family. I know that you are my half-brother. And I was shook. I was like, okay, so not only are members of his family truthfully looking for me this time, she knew about me, so it must be true. And she gave me her details. What I did do eventually is I made a phone call to her and we agreed to meet a few weeks later. I was going on holiday and I wanted to catch up with her face to face so that I could have a face to face conversation with her. She told me about my dad's brother, my uncle, who I have gotten in touch with recently and I now speak to, but here's the clincher. I have a half-sister, you guys. I didn't know anything about her. She is 6 weeks younger than me. 6 weeks younger than me. I also have a half-brother by a different lady. My half-brother and my half-sister did know each other. He is quite a bit younger than me and I have since made contact with him and we have now gotten pretty close. My uncle was at my mum's bedside when she was really poorly in hospital. He came along and he supported me at my mum's funeral. At this stage, guys, I have tried to make contact with my dad and have been pretty unsuccessful. He doesn't want to speak to me for whatever reason. I'm assuming it's because he's ashamed and embarrassed. He has told my uncle and my half-sister and my half-brother that, you know, after my mum's funeral, he would make contact with me. My mum's funeral was back in June. He has never made contact with me. But, you know, I have to look in the bright side of life. And I have to just think, you know, I thank my lucky stars. I had such an amazing mum. She emotionally took care of me. She's turned me into the man that I am today. I'm really hard working. I've never been without a job. And, you know, I'm in a great relationship. I'm in a good place now. And I have her to thank for that. My dad, you know, I doubt he's ever going to watch this because he doesn't use any social media or Facebook. I'm hoping that nobody really brings it to his attention. But if he does watch it, you know, I think you're a dick. And yeah, that's my story of my secret family. I did say I was going to be a bit blasé about it. Please remember, you know, I've had a few years to digest this information. I've had a year to digest the information about my half-brother, half-sister, and I've met them. We're all cool. My dad, he's a dick. He's always going to be a dick. I don't even know why I call him dad. He's not a dad to me. But yeah, I wanted to share this story with you guys. If you've liked the story, please give it a thumbs up. Don't forget to search for me on Twitter, Instagram, and Snapchat. I'm going to leave the links down below. And right here, you can subscribe to my channel. Bye!